Great. So we're recording. Hello, everybody. Very happy to see you again, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Today, I'm together with Zoltan and Chris, co-founders of Swapp. Swapp is a company that we've been working together for some time to bring to you guys. So we're very excited to discuss more about the business today. And by the time you will be watching this, you'll also find all the information available on our platform. And of course, feel free to check it out and pose your questions. If there are any other questions left after this conversation, feel free to check it out there. Zoltan and Chris are very happy to answer to any of your questions. So see you there. Zoltan, Chris, how are you?
Great, thank you.
Very good. Thanks for the opportunity, Mircea, to you and SeedBlink. Happy to be here.
Very, very happy to have you guys here. I think it would be great if you just, start with the pitch deck presentation, or just kind of get into your presentation mode, and then we'll get into a conversation. I have a couple of questions for you guys.
For sure, it makes sense. So I kick off. My name is Zoltan. I'm the CEO of Swapp, and I have my partner in crime, Careem, here with me, co-founder, responsible for business development and supply affairs. And today we're kind of here to represent Swapp. Swapp is a digital-first car rental and car subscription startup. We focus on and operate in the Middle East, and we offer digital alternatives to conventional car rental, anything from a few days, also to an alternative to car leasing, anything from a few months and beyond. Maybe I'll kick off with introducing the team just very briefly. Our core team are all kind of startup veterans, mostly coming from mobility and travel domains, also some subscription related stuff. Everybody with very consumer focused background, and I think to some extent this predestined the problem that we wanted to solve. So we basically started focusing on a subsegment of the mobility spectrum, which is how people have access to cars and how people basically use cars. So we just figured that the old conventional ways are a bit broken, not enough flexibility, very opaque, no transparency, big paper trail, not customer centric at all sorts of hidden fees, and the list goes on. So with our experience in other subsegments of mobility, we just figured, what if this space could be disrupted, and we came up with a more kind of digital, flexible alternative, great focus on UX, great focus on customer end-to-end, making it all inclusive and potentially making it affordable as well. And basically what we have today, what you can check out on the website and soon in our app as well, is basically just that. So you go into the app, you browse the cars, you select the dates, you select what vehicle you want, you go ahead and book it. The system would require you to submit some of your personal documents, provide the payment method, and then you get to choose where and when you want the car to be delivered. And in a few hours' time, the car actually would get delivered to your doorstep. So it's a very different, in terms of quality, a very different experience compared to what most of you would probably be used to with conventional car rental or car leasing. You can almost think about it as a Netflix type of experience or Airbnb type of experience for getting access to a vehicle. When we were evaluating this opportunity, naturally, we looked at the market size and the market potential as well. And we figured that by our estimates, the total available market in the broader Middle Eastern region is going to be around 40 million vehicles by the year of 2028. And we were just speculating if we could unlock maybe 0.1% of that market, approximately 40,000 vehicles. That would translate into 250 million in terms of annualized GMV. This is kind of the bare minimum or a conservative estimate that we've been working with. Some other actors in this domain, such as McKinsey, they were not as shy and conservative as we were. They are expecting a 20% penetration of the automotive market by car as a service or car subscription type of solutions. So I guess we can say that there is some material upside risk to our estimates, but we like to be conservative for now, and even the conservative numbers look very promising. Beyond the market size and the opportunity, I briefly want to touch on the business model we operate with, because it tells you a lot about the economics, how we make money, and the potential risks as well. So it's a hybrid model that we have in place. The majority of the vehicles we don't own. These are owned and operated by third-party fleet partners, and they get transacted through our marketplace. We are an intermediary in that context. A minority of the vehicles are actually owned and controlled, or controlled and managed by Swapp. These are basically leased vehicles. These are the vehicles we handpicked. We've been handpicking from the beginning, and now we're talking about more than 300 vehicles. We only focus on the top selling vehicles and the most wanted cars. This is how we make sure that the utilization of that fleet is very high. It's actually a 90 to 95%, beating the industry average, very little idle time, and very high margins. This is how we make sure that the economics at the end of the day work out. In contrast to that, the vehicles in the marketplace setup, that's what we consider the long tail. Some of those vehicles are not top selling. They are sought after, but maybe not to the same extent as lease vehicles. They add to the variety, they broaden the spectrum, but we wouldn't be comfortable running the utilization risk for those vehicles. So it's the third-party operators that run that utilization risk. And in exchange, we make our piece with smaller margins. So it's basically balancing that utilization risk and the margins that kind of makes this model work. And that's kind of the secret sauce of our operations. As a third component, we aim to add our own fleet to that mix as well. We want to swim upstream in that value chain, get closer to the OEMs, eliminate some of the intermediaries, and make sure that those margins become even higher. Obviously, to that, you need some scale, you need that size. We feel that we're getting there, and this is one of the major initiatives for us for next year. Another important building block is the partnership with Careem. Careem is the Uber of Middle East. In fact, it's owned by Uber and some external investors. Apart from the usual services like ride-hailing and food delivery, they decided to open up their app to third-party providers and call it a super app. Swapp has been an exclusive partner of Careem since the beginning. We provide the car rental and the car subscription services for now in the UAE, but very soon in Saudi Arabia and then beyond. This is a pretty kind of comprehensive partnership that we have in place. Careem gives us access to 30 million users in the broader MENA region. So with them, we can scale faster. The go-to markets are significantly more efficient. Beyond that, it's the brand that they kind of lend to us, so to speak. They are the household brand, the household tech company, or a startup of that region. So it gives us a lot of credibility. And they're also leveraging their expertise and their know-how, anything from product to go to market and in other aspects. So it's been a fundamental or like an instrumental partnership for Swapp since the beginning. We are the only partner operating in that domain, and we think it's going to be one of the key to our regional success. And finally, just kind of translating all that to numbers, talking a bit about traction and a bit about growth. We have a chart on the left-hand side here about our monthly transactions and the right-hand side on daily transactions. You can see that we did approximately a 3x in terms of monthly transactions comparing 2022 spring numbers to 2023 spring. Now we do see a bit of a dip because of the summer seasonality, but that's just one of the natural things in that region. We expect a strong rebound from September onwards. And on the right-hand side, with the short-term rentals, we see also a bit of a 3 or maybe a 4x growth over the last 9 to 10 months, ever since the service was started. In terms of financials, so the GMV, which is the platform turnover, also shows a 3x growth. Right now, we're doing approximately $850,000 in terms of monthly GMV, which translates to approximately 150,000 monthly net revenue. That's the part of the GMV that we as Swapp get to take. And what's equally important is the gross margin. In 2022, it was a very volatile margin, mostly negative or negative in most of the time. By 2023, we managed to grow that, we managed to stabilize that, and basically it leveled off around 40%. So to sum up this section, basically we've been around in the region for good 1.5 years. We've grown from 0 to approximately 150,000 in net revenue. We found product market fit. We stabilized the unit economics, and we feel that we are ahead of an inflection point right now. And with that, I would be passing it on to Chris. He would be talking more about the forward-looking aspects, such as geographical expansion, product expansion, and then a bit about this fundraising round that we're about to complete. Chris, passing it on to you.
Thanks, Zoli. I'm Chris. I'm also one of the co-founders, just to briefly introduce, mostly responsible for business development and supply, and working very hard on the Saudi expansion as well. So as Zoli mentioned, I'll start off with a little bit on the foreshadowing of what's going to happen in the next few years, and in terms of which markets we're planning to enter. We see the future of Swapp in the MENAP region. So the reason for this is there's exponential development. There's a huge influx of people. There's focus on growing non-oil related businesses across the whole region. And there's a high transitory population with no credit score, meaning that they're not able to lease a vehicle, or with no cash. That means that they're not able to buy a vehicle. So for us, this is basically the entry-level white-collar worker is the ideal customer that we see. So as I mentioned, we're focusing on the Gulf area, but other economies, interesting economies in the whole region are a target for us. And the core for that is Saudi. And Zoli, if you skip to the next slide. So Saudi is our particular focus point, and there's a variety of reasons why we think that Saudi is very important to crack and to crack right. It's the next big thing, basically. With Vision 2030 in place, the development is just really incredible to see how fast and how intensely the market develops. Currently, Saudi has a population of around 45 million, which is expected to double by 2030. And there's 70% of the population which is under 30 years old, which means that they're hugely digital. There's an 80% smart device penetration, as you can see, and all of these people are very, very used to renting cars. Car rental is very common, and with a good digital product, we believe that there's huge potential on this market. Yeah, Zoli, next slide, please. So what Swapp aims to do is become a one-stop shop for having a car. Basically, we started out originally as a purely subscription service in 2021 in Dubai. And adding to that, 2022, we added a daily rental product that helped us reach customers, the same customers with their different vehicle needs. And we see that the future is bringing additional layers of products so that we can actually grab all of the vehicle needs or the car needs of the customers. And that would be multi-month subscriptions with potentially better prices for the customers the longer they commit, giving us higher utilization and us being able to give back a little bit to the customer on that side. Plus, ideally, or finally, we are planning to launch our subscribe to own product, which actually will be a direct competition to leasing, except with a better product in our eyes, that customers will be able to actually purchase the vehicle at the end of their term for a price that they already know at day zero. What we aim to do with this is leveraging the same team and the same backend. We can utilize the fleet and minimize downtime of the vehicles and serve all the different use cases of the customers. So this doesn't only help to boost the revenues, but also improves our margins significantly. Next slide, please. Yes. So we started, as I mentioned earlier, we started in 2021 at nothing in Dubai, actually Q3 2021. And by end of year, this year, we'll reach about 10 million in annualized GMV, and we'll be EBITDA profitable in the UAE. On top of that, we're launching the KSA or Saudi within the next few weeks, and we plan on reaching EBITDA positivity by the end of 2024 as well. And we're planning on doubling our GMV by the end of next year. And as you can see on the graph, the doubling continues for the next few years. By having both core markets EBITDA positive by the end of year 2024, we have a very, very strong base and a very strong foundation. And we plan on applying that secret sauce that we will have found out to adjacent markets in the MENAP region. And whereas doubling might seem aggressive, but it's not an unreasonable growth trajectory that we foresee. And we will always, and we plan on always having an eye on financial sustainability. Our end goal is obviously to get all of our markets to EBITDA positivity by the end of 2028. And we will have added major markets like Egypt, potentially Pakistan, and a few others that are quite interesting by the end of that. And now comes the seed round, the seed extension round that we're currently raising, and why we're talking to you. We are raising a 2.4 million seed extension round at a 19 million pre-money valuation. And obviously, we aim to use these funds for turning the UAE profitable, for scaling Saudi, and to improve our product even further. So we have secured 2.1 million of this 2.4 million round, and the current ask is 300,000 euros. We will use this for product and tech, as I mentioned, for team and for marketing and growth, as these are the key elements that we see where we need to invest in the next 12 to 16 months in order to be able to unlock Saudi and to reach EBITDA positivity by the end of next year. So this is, I believe, the key slide, and I believe also the end of our presentation. So thank you very much for your attention, and back to you.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks a lot, Zoltan. Very insightful presentation. I think, everything that you've done looks very interesting and very promising, and you can see that, everyone can see that you have some great results. But I have a couple of questions and topics to kind of address. One of them is that, generally people and consumers and businesses are kind of used to, car rental businesses, or they've kind of seen such models before. I think it would be very good if you could point out the main differentiators that clients see when they're using Swapp compared to other traditional car renting companies.
Sure, maybe I'll start with that, and Chris can join in on this. I think one of the real differentiators is this end-to-end digital nature that we were trying to emphasize. Everything is happening in the app or the website, those contracts that many of us have seen, or the queuing at the airport or the mall or something, or the, the wait time, and then like all these kind of things. It's not part of what we are doing. It's not part of the overall experience. And we are operating, we are sitting in Europe right now, and maybe some of the investors are of European background. I think it's important to understand that the standards of services in the Middle Eastern economies are pretty high. The expectation of the consumer are pretty high. And what we are bringing in this regard is pretty much in line with those high expectations. You as the customer are being kind of served left, right, and center. You are not the one who has to run around. It's much more of a hassle-free environment catered for your needs. Others, such as Swapp, is doing the running around for you.
Yeah. Okay. Clear. And maybe I think going back to maybe the beginning of your presentation, you guys have a great team, like and you're also coming from other companies that have built kind of super apps before. I think it would be great if you could tell us a few more things about the background of each of you and what you've done before too.
Sure. Happy to. Let me just jump in. If you guys see my slide right now.
Right.
Do you guys see the
we
team
don't see it. We don't see it.
You're sharing
don't
anymore.
see it? Okay, let me try this one more time. Can you guys see it now?
Now we can.
Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect. Chris, if you wanted to introduce some of the key folks and very briefly, please go ahead.
Yeah, happy to. So Zsolt, who's our chairman and co-founder, he has successfully built a car leasing company in Hungary before, and is also running the Bolt franchise, formerly known as Taxify in Hungary and Austria, has scaled it to become the leading people transportation company in both countries. And is basically a serial entrepreneur who brings to the table not only the car leasing knowledge, but also the whole app and scalability and people transportation background that we have. Plus, he has a huge visionary in terms of product and brings all of these qualities to the table. Zoltan, I think, yeah, I'll introduce you as well. Zoli is ex investment banker at Credit Suisse, and then ex Uber GM for Hungary and Uber Eats GM for Scandinavian markets, has built companies, I think, from scratch as well in exciting markets, and is very well known with the Uber environment, the Uber way of thinking, and how to scale companies from zero to something and to big things. About myself briefly, I'm half German, half Hungarian. I started my career at private banking, also at Credit Suisse. Didn't know Zoli back then, and I spent some time in Africa bringing level 2 banking products to the digital platform, to mobile money platforms. Then I joined Deezer and became head of operations for Deezer in Africa. Managed to scale Deezer to become the leading streaming provider, music streaming provider on the African continent, and then quit around 7 years ago and helped my father in the family business for a while before starting Swapp with the guys. We have some key people in the markets as well. Just to briefly summarize, Mark Hovayak is head of GCC, he's ex-Careem. Danny is head of BizDev. He is also ex-Careem. He helped a lot to bring the Careem connection to play, and he knows everybody in the UAE, basically. We have a great CTO, Akos, who is ex-Skyscanner, head of product, very young, very talented guy, Botond, and Usman Ghani was the first employee of Careem in the western province of Saudi Arabia, and he's our head of operations in Saudi Arabia. So I believe we have a very, very strong team with diverse backgrounds and a lot of specialty knowledge, and combined, I think we're sitting at the right table.
Yeah, I think that's a great mix. Also, wanted to ask, what's the Gary's story of how you guys started it? Like, how did you see the problem in the market, and how did you start it in the very early days?
I think I take that as well. Basically, what we saw is being in the position, Zsolt and I know each other for a very long time, and we both were in the position of buying a car or getting a car, and we both had the same problem. And I saw a press release about Porsche launching Porsche Passport in Atlanta, and I got super excited about the idea of subscribing to a car. And Zsolt had the same. Basically had the same epiphany at the same time. It was just booked by Cadillac or some other American brand that had the same car subscription model being launched. And we realized that that is something that is interesting enough for both of us to work on. And first it started as a I don't know, a brainstorm, and we figured out how this could be applied to the markets that we see interesting. And we realized very early in the thought process that we're not a car manufacturer, so that we need to apply the business model to that. And then obviously we came up after 74 iterations with a business plan that we thought would make sense to start and to actually commit to full time. And that's how basically we started with the car subscription business plan and the idea.
Yeah, great. Good. And so basically, now you're operating in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, you're expanding in Saudi as well. You're generating about 850K GMV a month, and 150K in net revenues. What's next for you? And what are the main goals that you're trying to achieve? And also kind of the main KPIs you're trying to hit?
Yeah. So we think that Swapp is at an inflection point at the moment. So we are speaking about this a few weeks before we enter the Saudi market. And then as Chris was kind of giving you a feel of that market, that's a region within a region. So the market is like 4 times or 5 times the size of the UAE. And when we were sizing up their car rental space or the car leasing space, there is also a 4 to 5x multiplier compared to the UAE. So even by conservative estimates, we are thinking about a 2x or a 3x growth for Swapp just over the next 12 months, and just by entering Saudi Arabia and being present in some of the key locations, 3 key locations in Saudi Arabia. And we're also hopeful because we're taking with us a ton of learning from the UAE, some hard-won advice and some hard-won experience here in the UAE. When you as an early stage startup, you make a series of mistakes. By the time you get to iterate and get to a more plausible situation. So every transaction, every additional transaction, we get to be feel that we're able to do that now cheaper and quicker in that new market. So there is a bit of a spiral effect and hopefully a kind of a virtuous circle for us to go through. So I think Saudi will be defining the next 12 to 18 months to Swapp, and it will also make or break and hopefully make the success of that company. Beyond that, there would be other markets of the Gulf area, potentially adjacent markets like Pakistan and Egypt. But one step at a time, we think that we can get to a 3x growth in terms of GMV or net revenue, but just by going into Saudi. And what's very important, as Chris said, that in approximately 16 to 18 months time, we want to have not only our core market, the UAE EBITDA positive, but also the Saudi market EBITDA positive, basically contributing to the profitability of the entire organization and helping us to cross-subsidize any potential expansion in the future. So we are thinking about this in a very frugal manner and in a very sustainable manner.
Sure. And maybe one of the last questions that I have, when you're talking about expanding, now it's Saudi Arabia, but later on there's going to be other countries, as you mentioned. how do you, what's your, strategy of acquiring the initial customer base? How are you bringing the people to Swap?
Yeah, so one of the key acquisition channels for us is Careem and this exclusive partnership with Careem. As we mentioned, they have more than or almost 30 million customers in the region. Millions of those are in Saudi Arabia. Careem is the go-to brand for multiple services in Saudi Arabia, mostly ride-hailing, taxi, and these kind of thing. And with their new investment that they just gained from a local powerhouse or a regional powerhouse, they have tens of millions of dollars to invest into Saudi and becoming even bigger and even more dominating in Saudi, almost like building a Grab type of super app that they have in Southeast Asia, doing the same in the Middle East. And Swap gets to benefit from that hugely. And also beyond that, we are focusing not just on Careem, but our standalone kind of service. And we found that there is a big kind of pull effect in what we're doing, both in terms of the selection, the pricing, the communication, the quality of the product, and the overall UX that we've been working on has been very appealing to the customers in the UAE. And we are finding that there are user personas and user cohorts in Saudi where a similar but localized value proposition could work as well. So that would be the combination of the kind of the Careem user acquisition channel and the standalone user acquisition channel.
Yeah, great, good. Having said that, I think we're kind of getting to the end of our, typical time limit. Maybe as a conclusion, or not necessarily conclusion, but as the end of the conversation, do you have any message to the investors that are watching right now, or key takeaway that you would like them to end the video with?
Yeah, maybe I start and then Chris can add to it. I think it's very exciting times for us at Swap, and it's a very exciting life stage for the project. As it usually goes with early stage ventures, we've been through a complete roller coaster, and we feel at a point where things have kind of started stabilizing. We found the product market fit, the traction is looking promising, the economics are more and more plausible, and we are ahead of that inflection point that we were talking about. And what's also unique about our project is the region that we're focusing on. So if the investors pay a lot of attention to what's going on in Europe and potentially US, North America, it's I think it's very kind of colorful and not necessarily all that positive. But the region we're operating in is, we think it's much more, at least from a macro perspective, it's much more stable, and it's a safer bet if you're looking out for like the next 3, 5, 7 years in terms of the macroeconomic prospect, in terms of the population growth, factoring in that these are energy-rich economies and where everything is headed in the kind of the macro, in the like geopolitical context. Population is growing, so the overall outlook for these kind of consumer services, such as Swap, it seems to be a much more kind of protective and much more promising than if we were to do the same in Europe or in US. So if for anyone who is looking for a kind of a safer bet in an interesting geography, I think Swap could be something to consider.
And maybe adding to that, just in one sentence, I believe that also Swap is at a very interesting point, because I think that, as Zoli mentioned, we have gained massive experience and a massive amount of experience over the past 2 years operating in the UAE, and I believe that the team as a whole now has a skill set at its hands that has never been this high, and going with this skill set and applying the right people for the right the right tasks in the new market in Saudi is going to make the whole journey much easier and hopefully with less speed bumps. So I'm very confident about that being a very good time to be at Swapp, and yeah, I see that as a huge opportunity and a huge wide road ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Then thank you guys for taking the time to participate in this video call. I hope you have great success. For all the investors watching, thank you for watching this. Again, as mentioned in the beginning of the video, if there are additional questions, you can contact us directly or pose your question in the Swapp platform, in the Swapp section of our platform. And we'll be sure to address anything that comes up. Good. Thanks a lot again, and see you soon.
Thanks for the
Thank you.
time. Thanks
Bye.
for the opportunity to speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.